Okay, on this video we're going to cover this task sheet number here. Our description is check engine coolant type, level, condition, test coolant for freeze protection and additive package concentration. So first thing we need to do is talk about coolant itself. So you hear the term antifreeze thrown out and you hear the term coolant. So antifreeze is added to distilled water to make coolant. Coolant is a mixture of antifreeze and distilled water at the proper mixture levels, generally about a 50-50 for this climate, so that you get the proper freeze point. So antifreeze is like full strength and it's added to coolant, so added to distilled water to make coolant. So you never add water to the 50-50 coolant that you can buy, which is what I have here. It's already mixed 50-50. It says all over it, do not add water, so you need to be sure and keep that straight between those two. You really don't want to add just antifreeze to an engine unless somebody has added water and you're trying to get the mixture level back to the proper freeze point. So we have a couple of different tools available. The old standard is called a hydrometer to check coolant. So with a hydrometer, all it's going to tell us is freeze point. This is a style that has a little arrow indicator here instead of the floating balls. Like I said, it's called a hydrometer. So the only thing it's going to tell you is freeze point. A refractometer is another way, so much like the one we used for DEF fluid, this one's for coolant and battery. So looks a lot the same. You put a sample on the little screen here, look through the end here, like toward the light, and same way, it's almost like a range finder. It tells you what the freeze point of the coolant is. So what that's telling you is if the antifreeze and water are the proper mixture. So one of the big differences with the truck world versus automotive is we worry about the fact that as antifreeze gets old, because antifreeze is an acid, it has some chemicals added to it to neutralize their pH balance, make it where it's not acidic. And over time, that additive breaks down. It doesn't change the freeze point. It will still say that it's not going to freeze because it's a proper mixture. But as those additives break down, the antifreeze becomes acidic, so it starts eating away the metal parts inside your engine. And we've also got what's called nitrile to help with liners, and we'll get to that when we get deeper into engines. But it's a coating that protects metal parts from the adverse effects of diesel engine temperatures. So both of those have to be checked if you do coolant testing properly. So what we recommend is these little coolant test strips. So it's just a little strip here with like 3 little pads on it. There's a bottle of these. Always make sure and check the date. As you can see, these are actually out of date. 8 of 18 is when they expired, so make sure that they're in date. I went ahead and pulled a sample of coolant for us to evaluate. So this is out of the ISC actually, even though we're technically doing this task sheet on the white Freightliner. But if we follow the little directions here, like I said, this is a little bit hard to do one-handed, but I'm going to dip that good in the coolant. It says to shake it off to get the excess off of there. Wait 45 seconds. And then we're going to match it up to the colors on the outside of this bottle and see what we have as far as an evaluation. Now, if you look here at the top, that pad's really close. You've got a center pad in that one, and then you have a handle. So it basically looks like this test strip here. So once again, I apologize for having the video and hold this one-handed, but you're going to take this end one and match it up so it's down here at the bottom one, which tells us that this coolant needs to be flushed and replaced. So at that point, technically, we would be done as far as on the truck, because if we're going to have to replace it, we don't really care about the freeze point because we're going to put new in it. Let's say it passed that one though, and we came here to the middle. It's a little bit hard to tell in this light, but we're good to about negative 34 degrees Fahrenheit, so the mixture's still good. It's not going to freeze and break the block. And then over here on the end is the pH. So that's the one closest to the little handle here. And as far as the pH balance, it is right in the middle, so 8.0, so it is good from a pH standpoint. But we've already determined that on our nitrile levels, which is what protects our internal engine with a special coating, is bad and needs to be flushed and replaced. So now we were all the way at the bottom, so it said that we have an ideal here. A little bit hard to see on this video, but you see in the 500 range here, it says maintenance dose. So when we get that on our test strip, it's telling us to add one of these supplemental additive coolant packages to it that will replace that nitrile level on that. So if it's just a little bit bad there, it's going to tell you to add one of these. If it's really bad, it's going to tell you to replace it. So that's why we use the test strips, because it doesn't just tell us freeze point, it evaluates the condition of the coolant. Last little thing here I kind of skipped over. So this is a heavy diesel engine approved coolant. It's kind of a universal one, but these are the specifications and performance requirements that it meets. So this is a Cummins engine, so it meets the CES 14603. So that would tell us we're using the right coolant, because that's what our book would specify. As far as amounts of coolant that are on the task sheets as well, you're not really going to find a specification, because an engine manufacturer will tell you how much coolant their engine holds, but it doesn't tell you what application, because it doesn't know what radiator and other accessories. So you're really not going to find a specification very easily on how much coolant the truck holds. So just use the one off a quick serve, which for an N14 I believe is about 21 quarts if I remember right. So that would be your specification on that to get your task sheet done.